Welcome, everyone. We'd like to have this conversation now and kind of bring a new group in. So we're talking about leadership, and we want to dive into an aspect of the plenary that was discussed a little bit about, but not maybe as much as we had liked, which is step one. So in starting a new initiative, step one is the hardest to take. And it takes people being courageous, but it also takes a couple other skills that I bet you guys have learned throughout your time. So we just want to talk about what are those leadership skills, and how can we help those that are watching online start to operationalize those aspects? So I think that it would be great for us to have this conversation and to ask each other the questions that we've been dying to know about each other and how we managed to do it. But first up, I think perhaps I can ask Faye. I am so inspired by your story. So much of us that have listened to it have been as well. But really, most people watch movies, get angry. I'm a crier, it happens. And then you kind of get over it. There's this lingering feeling over the next day or two where you're upset, but then it's done. So why, how did that continue? How did you keep that feeling? How did that really drive what you're doing now?
That's a very, do you hear me? Is that okay?
I think so.
That's a very interesting question because I like Joanna Macy. She says that anger, when it's driven in a right way, it's a change force. We can change things with our anger. And I'm very passionate about things. And I was so angry that I had to do something. I couldn't start living the way I lived anymore after watching Trashed. It was the first movie that really touched me. I'm not a crier. I don't cry a lot on movies. I actually didn't cry on Trash. I want to go out. I'm not feeling well, you know. And this made me turn my anger into a decision on the same night. I got out of the movies and I got in the internet. I remember when I was little, I had a retractable cup and I decided to buy 20. It was just like that. It was like I had a download of what I had to do, you know. I didn't think of it a lot. And then it was 2012. Then I launched One as Trash in 2015. So I studied a lot. I got in touch with what I was digesting this anger and thinking about a way to put it to the world. And so this anger became a purpose in my life because then I realized that this anger was like sadness, was sadness for what we were doing to the planet. It was a way to react. It was a way to make justice. So I just had the aha when I left the movies, and then I kept, you know, thinking of how I could turn this thing into a movement that would spread the word and that would reach people and make them conscious of it without having to be so angry about it and in a positive way, you know.
So even though you took your anger and kind of spinned it positively, do you still feel that anger is that powerful tool that we need to use in some way? Or how do you think we should keep driving maybe the next generation of people?
I think that not everyone is driven by anger, so I have to start saying that. But I think that if you use this, it can be a very powerful justice tool. If you just know how to rearrange this and use this energy, because anger is an energy, like love is energy, and like, you know, it has like this powerful energy that is within you, and then if you can transmute that and change it before turning out, and not responding with anger, but responding with action, responding with love to that, then it's very powerful energy that we have to learn how to deal with.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree, because I can relate to the times where I have been angry, and it's easier to like suppress the anger and get rid of it because you don't know how to act, or you're terrified of how it's going to go. But I think a lesson of just maybe reflecting on it and seeing how can I take a positive action out of this would be a good way to channel some of that energy. Do you guys have any comments on anger? Have you been angry? What was the first emotion that drove you to that next step?
I probably don't resonate so much with anger, but definitely with the energy. And so I think what it's really about is identifying what energizes you. Where do you get energy from? For me, a lot of the time, I get energy from people, the people around me. And then I feel that energy and a sense of kind of purpose and meaning when I really I guess, connect people and connect with other people and can kind of translate that initial, okay, I'm getting all this energy from these people I'm working around. How can we then identify opportunities to translate that into something that is meaningful, that will keep connecting people, and that will keep connecting people not only to each other, but to opportunities for building their skills, for building their networks, for developing in their careers. So I think I mentioned in the plenary going to this forestry student event and really starting from zero, and at the end of 2 weeks feeling this amazing energy and feeling this amazing potential in myself that I maybe didn't realize was there. And you know, maybe I didn't have the knowledge of this organization. I had no idea how to run an event. Mentoring was something that I'd probably never thought about in a really specific way. But through the people I met, through the ideas that we spoke about, and then through that feeling of support in entering this official role, I felt supported in where my kind of energy was taking me, and kind of drawing on some of the skills of the people around me. It made me feel, you know, every event that we run, I get a lot from it. And so what drives me now is to be able to give that back to the community of youth in landscapes and around me. So again, identifying where your energy comes from, and then being able to really channel that and ensure that what you're actually doing is feeding that energy and giving back.
Yeah, I think I definitely relate with that, since we've kind of had maybe the same start or beginning. And Nasika, you shared the story of your grandmother and maybe your local environment and how you grew up, and that shift also at some point where you started to realize there's a deeper meaning behind the trees, and there's a power in what they can do. So what was that moment for you?
I think for me, it was all about the passion, you know. For me, it was all about the passion. What drove my grandmother? Why was she so close to the trees? And picking up that passion and getting to understand what it was all about, and finding ways to act on that passion, not just have the passion and sit there, but act upon it. And I sort of resonate with what Faye said about anger, because most of the time I would walk around, let's say when I've gone to the village, and I would walk around and I would see people cutting down trees, and I would get so agitated. I feel like, why are you people cutting down trees? Don't you know the benefits? Don't you know there's something you can gain from this tree? Why do you cut it down? Why can't you just plant something else? Why can't you preserve it? Why can't you protect it, conserve it? Don't cut it down. And so for me, the anger and the passion was like a point of action. I wanted people to know, you can conserve this. You don't have to cut it. I have the passion for it. I'm speaking about it. I'm sharing my knowledge about it. So for me, it all boils down to passion, anger, and action. Yeah.
So, okay, if step one then is knowing where you get energy from, and figuring out a way to rechannel it into action. There's also this bit that I'm hearing about knowledge, maybe, because knowledge was an aspect of, I learned something new, and then this sparked something, and it changed. How do you then take that next step? Like, how do you inspire other people to start their first step as well? Is it knowledge? Is it connecting people? What do you think?
For me, I think you have to be knowledgeable for you to be able to connect to people. If I'm going to if I want to connect with you about a certain topic, I have to know that topic well. So my first point would be, you have to master your craft. What is it that you want to tell people? What is it that you want to share with your world? With the world? What are the benefits of this thing that you want to share with the world? Do you know it well enough to explain it to a 5-year-old? If you cannot explain it to a 5-year-old, then you don't know it so well for you to be able to speak about it. So knowledge is critical. If you want to share whatever passion you have, if it's in landscape restoration, it is in fashion, you have to be able to know it really well, that if someone just wakes you up in the middle of the night and they're like, Faye, I need you to speak about plastics and how they affect our marine life, you need to be able to just grasp it and speak about it immediately. You don't have to think and be like, you know, you need to be able to know it at first hand, yeah.
And I'd like to add something, that when we're talking about young leaders, when we're talking about young people, and even older people, it doesn't matter. Don't wait till you have it all solved to start. You know, you go version 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 4. You go improving the project, because sometimes it reinvents itself. Sometimes you think of a model of something, so I'm going to do this, and it doesn't work. And then you have to reframe it and say, okay, this path didn't work, I'm going to walk another path. don't let your passion die because you failed the first time. Everybody here failed at some point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times we fail a lot. And failure is like a component of our daily lives as entrepreneurs, as people that are doing something new and that are changing and that are you know, breaking boundaries. So start with what you have. What you have is good. You know, you have the knowledge. So then go. The shape of it is going to turn in the way you are walking this path. So just start and things will, I think that when you're aligned with your purpose, the universe helps you and then puts the key pieces on your way, and you have to be able to look at them and connect the dots.
Yeah, Sarah, any thoughts?
I think picking up on two things. One I heard is having a really clear message, what your purpose is, what is the passion or the message that is going to unite people around whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. So I think that's something that's really important. But I really like coming back to this idea of failure. You know, failure for me is not failing to achieve what you want to achieve in the first, second, 100th time. Failure is not learning from the mistakes that you make, and failure is also failing to take risks, you know? So again, when I first started, I had no idea about running an event or mentoring or how to build these connections amongst youth organizations and professional organizations, but I knew what was motivating me and what I wanted to achieve, and sometimes you just have to start, like you said. I think something else that can be really helpful, and this can maybe be challenging, but is finding champions. And so I think back to how we started at the Global Landscapes Forum, and we had a few people in particular who were really supportive of this idea, who really just gave us that confidence boost and the structure, that kind of institutional structure, but really the confidence boost to say, yes, we believe in what you're doing, go for it. They didn't tell us, okay, this is how you do it, and this is how you do a concept note or a business plan, but just that feeling of being empowered to then go and, okay, let's just try something. And then every year it changes. So don't feel held back if you feel like you're not fully there yet. You've got to start somewhere.
Yeah, and I think one thing that was nice to kind of take away from the plenary is okay, yeah, we're young. Yeah, we're doing incredible things. And I love that about the young people that I meet. But sometimes it can happen in a silo where it's not recognized. We know we're doing great things, but people, maybe outside of our generation or in a certain different sphere, are not aware with that. So I think a lot of what we want to do is break that and to start communicating together, to start collaborating together. But there are also challenges in that communication. So I'd love to know, like, what are your experiences when it comes to intergenerational collaboration or cross-sectoral collaboration? And maybe what are the insights that you can bring out of that? Has it been challenging? Are there some success stories that you have that you can share with us? But how do you break through what you're already comfortable with and kind of enter that new space?
I think that when we talk about all sustainability issues that we have, they are not clear for everyone. So we don't have everybody's not united in the same agenda. People still think that other things are more important, like making money, and that's it. So you really have to find who you're talking to and what touches those people's hearts. What's their language? What's the way this guy, this girl thinks, or this audience thinks, so that you can use a language that connects to them. And this is very important regarding this specific all the environmental topics, because sometimes we have excellent papers being published and really great research being done, but then we don't know how to get all this to the mass, to the audience. And I would say that language is a very important aspect. You have to know what you want to say and who's going to receive the message. Otherwise, you're going to be speaking by yourself, because you're going to be speaking, and the person's not going to understand anything. So you have to try to connect with something from their experience, to say, okay, this is important because of this, and that. Not because of what I'm saying, but regarding your experience, listen to this, listen to that. And I think Claire can say a little bit more about it, because I was asking her how she can make people in her village see the importance of the trees. And then she was saying, I let them tell me what they're doing, how we can get together to doing this. So it's a very nice way of getting people to talk to you and to say what their fears are. Because on the bottom, we're talking about, we have everybody shares the same values of life, meaning that everybody wants to be loved, everybody wants secure things, everybody wants to feel comfortable. So if you can make this message touch this person or this audience, saying that by doing that, there's going to be more love, more peace, and a more secure environment for everyone. It doesn't matter which words you use, but how you can connect to what this audience thinks about love and peace and equality and environmental and you know, quality of life.
Just to add on what Faye has said, if you want people to act on something, you need to move their emotions. If their emotions are not moved, then chances are they're not going to act, so they're not going to resonate with what you're saying. And in terms of moving from cross-generational conversations, young people are very tech-savvy. Young people know how to operate different technologies and, you know, find them on social media and everything else. But the older generation, they have the knowledge. For instance, my grandmother knew a lot about trees than I did. But for me, well, I know how to use a smartphone. She didn't know how to use a smartphone. I know how to use a smartphone. And my work would be take the pictures, share on my Instagram, share on my Facebook, read a little bit about the tree, and combine what she knows about the benefits of that tree and what I've read about, and share it on my social media sites. And for me, that's where the connection between the older generation and the younger generation comes in. I think for us, if we are able to, let's say, achieve landscape restoration, we need to merge the two. The older generation has a lot of knowledge when it comes to the various ways they used to conserve the environment before. Like in my village, there's a particular area they used to say, there's a particular island, they say the gods live there. They believe, that is like a belief that there's somewhere, Sumba Hills, it's called Sumba Hills, the gods live there. And so when you go to that particular hill, it's inside Lake Victoria, it's like a small island within Lake Victoria. If you go there, you'll find that there are trees on that hill. No one cuts them down. There are trees over there. And someone might think that is a very backward way of thinking, but you see, it's achieving the same objective that you want, environmental conservation. Someone would say, oh, they are worshipping, I don't know, demigods, they're doing something, but you have to look at the bigger picture. What is that bigger picture you wanted? Environmental conservation, right? Are their cultural beliefs helping you do that? Yes, they are. How can you integrate your knowledge and your tech savviness into that? How can you tap into that? How can you take a picture of that place and share with the world and tell people, this community is doing this? And as a young person, I'm helping them get to a bigger audience, get to a bigger crowd of the various ways they're using to conserve the environment. So for me, it's all about finding that connection and being emotive about it. What is that one thing that you want to pass to the world, and how can you do it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think the intergenerational discussion is really interesting, and it's definitely something that Youth in Landscapes focuses on, trying to bridge that potential generational gap. But also in some ways, you know, these are kind of arbitrary words and boundaries that we put down. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I know a lot of young people who are hopeless on social media, and I know a lot of older people who are fantastic communicators, who are incredibly energized, who I have a lot to learn from as well. And I'm in this kind of interesting space now where I'm more than a decade older than a lot of my IFSA fellow students, but I'm still young. You know, I'm within the first 10 years of my career. I've just gone back to being a student again. So where do I sit in that space? So I think what you've been talking about, identifying really what motivates people and drives people, and how we can just talk to each other as people, mm-hmm. and that's something in the mentoring matching process, you know, I've heard it referred to as landscape matchmaking, but what I really try and do is, yes, match people based on their interests that they can talk about, but also try and find some common kind of personal background or common personal ground that they can talk about. And in the introductory emails that we send out, giving some suggestions as to, you know, talking about their travels to come here, talking about where they've come from, make that personal connection, that then they can start to communicate about some of these bigger and more challenging issues. So I think we need to be careful when we talk about you know, the value of youth. It's not just about having this wonderful social media team, and the value of, you know, experience and expertise is not just about holding additional knowledge. It's really about identifying what everyone is bringing to the table.
Yeah, and I think maybe there's some takeaways here in terms of listening to the people that you want to interact with, and fully understanding where they're coming from first and what they're bringing to the table. Because I think perhaps maybe what is separating us, and it's very arbitrary, are just these assumptions that we have about each other that are built up when you don't interact. And perhaps it's just letting go of those assumptions and starting to speak together as people and seeing how we can collaborate. But taking a step back, I'm like trying to piece this together. First up, we have energy and how you as an individual can kind of figure out how you act. I think taking away listening to others to get them to collaborate with you is definitely maybe a key component of leadership. But then there's this aspect perhaps of conflict that will happen. And I'm curious to know, how does that interplay with leadership, and how do you navigate potential conflict with either an external stakeholder or in failures that are coming up with yourself? Because I think that as we start to grow, and as we talked about in our plenary, once you start leveraging a certain amount of money, when you start impacting a large group of people, there are natural trade-offs and conflicts that happen. So I'd love to hear if there are any specific stories or just your perspectives on how you think one should navigate that.
For me, I remember when I started the Hummingbird Foundation, and so what we do is we establish food gardens within the slums of Nairobi. And you know, slums have got limited space. So the schools also, some of the schools we work with do not have enough space for even a playground. And so we had to share that little space for our food gardens and for the kids to have a small playing area. So what came to our mind is that we could do portable food gardens. And this portable food garden, so the kids can grow the vegetables in there, and then when it matures, you take some home, or you can keep it in school, whichever way you like. But I remember after like 3 months, once we had set up the vegetable gardens, and we broke off for the holidays. When we came back, there were no food gardens. Like the community members just jumped across the school fence, because the fence is not also that big that it can can prevent someone from coming in. So they just jumped off, because it's made of iron sheets. They jumped off, carried every single tin that we had, and they went away with it. And so for us, that was like a conflict of interest, you know. We are trying to teach the kids how to grow food, but the communities feel like we are locking them outside, and so they're going to sabotage whatever we're doing. And so how we decided to go about that is we decided to get some of the youth from that local community, the youth who live in that slum. So that when they come on board, we can explain to them what exactly it is we're trying to teach the kids. How is that going to help the slum community? How is that going to impact these kids' lives? And some of the kids go to school without food. So we thought, if we can grow the vegetables in these tins, these kids would have something to eat, even if they came from home without nothing. When they're going in the evening, at least they're taking a bunch of vegetables the mom can cook, and you can have that for dinner. So that's what we were thinking. But the community was on the other side, perhaps thinking we are locking them out. We are trying to teach their kids a new thing that they are not up for, and so it became an issue. And I remember one child particularly came to me, and she told me, "Teacher, you are teaching me this, but my mom does not allow me to carry water from home and come and water my vegetables." And I said, why is that? And she was like, she told me I'm wasting water, and we have to buy water for 5 shillings. So she said, if you're able to give me 5 shillings every day, then I'm gonna come with water. So those are some of the conflicts. So for us to be able to overcome those conflicts, we had to bring some members of the community, and particularly young people, because this is a project about young people. We had to bring them on board to be able to work with them. So they're going to explain to the community what exactly it is we're trying to do, and how that is helping the kids, and how that is going to help the entire community in the long run. Yeah.
And lastly, I'd like to ask us to maybe reflect on either one word or a value that you think is vital to leadership, and how that's shaped your journey as a leader.
I will start with love. I think that when after the angry part, I discovered that I had so much love within me, love for human beings that I didn't know before. I would feel very angry about human beings all the time. Like, why are you doing this? Are you stupid? You know? And so love is very important. It's a key, because that's what makes us humans. We are not born humans. We're born something that we can become humans. I don't know the word in English, but it's humanoids or something like that. I don't know if this word exists. Does it? But we become humans whenever we can see others as equal to us. And then love can build the bridges between this separative vision of the world that was imposed to us, and that makes us think that we are not nature, that it's them and us, it's nature and us, as if we were not all part of the same planet and brotherhood that's called Earth, you know? And when you can lead with love, it's a major change, because now we see people leading through power, and not power of love, power of you know, guns or power of money. When you see that the leadership through love is much more effort, and it's much more effective, and it's really more powerful because it changes people's lives and changes your life, then I think we can start, you know, connecting the dots and walking through this through this path of uniting everyone together in the living agenda.
And I think for me, a very key word when it comes to leadership is passion. I have two words. So passion and consistency. You cannot lead people towards something you don't love, towards something you don't believe in. If you have passion for something, you definitely believe in it, and you care about it. So for me, the most important thing when it comes to leadership is passion. You must believe in something. You must believe in that thing with your entire heart, soul, and body, and mind, and everything, for you to be able to lead people into believing in that particular thing. And then consistency. You could have passion, you believe in it, but you're not consistent. Today you wake up, you do something, and then tomorrow you don't do it. The people you're leading will also lose morale along the way, because they don't know where they're going. Today you're here, tomorrow you're there, the next day you're on the other side. You lack consistency. And I think it's important as a leader, if you have the passion, please accompany it with being consistent in whatever you're doing. Yeah.
So I'm the third person, so I have 3 words. And they're not, I'll be very quick. And these are words from actually one of the most inspiring women and a friend and a leader that I know. And these are 3 C words, and they are community, courage, and compassion. So I don't know if I see myself as a leader, and I don't see being a leader as, you know, you are one person and you are leading a group of other people. So around community, it's about bringing people together, whether this is a small team, whether this is a large community of people working to a common goal, to realize their potential and whatever your common goal or motivation is. So that's community. Courage, again, we've spoken about. It's having that courage to just step forward and make that first step, take that first decision, you know, take a risk. And I think as a leader, you really need to model that. And then compassion, again, having compassion for the people that you're working with, having that, I mean, it could be the same as love, everything that you've spoken about. So I think those 3 are really what drives me when I'm working in these youth organizations.
Perfect. I think mine would definitely be community as well. So that's added to the list. And I'm really grateful to have this conversation with the 3 of you and with the online audience, and this really special digital summit that kind of breaks down both leadership, but also the challenges and the opportunities we have in the coming years. So I'd like to thank everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.
And can I just add something?
Yeah.
If you want to follow our project on Instagram, I think it's nice to say mine is at menos lixo, MENOS 1LIXO.
And you can join the Youth in Landscapes Initiative community. We're on Facebook, we're on the GLF website, we're everywhere.
Yep.
And you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I use the same name, Nasike Akelo. And my initiative, the Hummingbird Foundation, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram as well.
Perfect. So we hope to see you all in the conversation and to be chatting online. Thank you.